Welcome to East Coast DNA. We are a music news podcast. I'm Andrew, and this is my brother,
Darcy Walsh.
This week's a little bit of a different episode. We have an interview coming up with Matt Steele from Matt Steele and the Corvette Sunset, as well as his solo work and his author work, where he wrote Heavy Metal Self-Help, which will be available by PDF, and we'll show a link on that in the comment section or the show notes, depending on how you're listening to this. And that interview was solo with Darcy. I've been out of service for the last couple of weeks with the big C word, not cancer, the other big C word, not the four-letter one.
Just say it.
I got COVID. I've been out of service for a couple of weeks with it. It's nasty. Our mandates here are lifted. Mandates are lifting across the country, but I beg of you, I see a lot of it at work. Wear your mask. I don't want to get preachy, but wear your mask when you're in public. If you're going to cough on people, if you feel unwell, stay home if you can. If you can't, fight the person that's saying you can't, and just wear a goddamn mask. That's what I'm saying. Protect others. Keep your spit in your own face.
Yes, I've been somewhat spoiled being able to work from home a lot through COVID. So entering back into some office work is not something I'm super excited about. But I'm still wearing a mask despite a couple side eyes. But I mean, there's other people that are too. Yeah, and I've been out a couple times. Probably a couple of our listeners may have even seen me down at the commune. But for the most part, I have my mask on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's pretty comfortable down there. I mean, even at max capacity, there's still, like, if everybody kind of has a seat, you can get up and move around, but it still feels quite comfortable. I don't feel claustrophobic. Like, I don't feel like it's closing in on me with people who are not wearing masks. It feels comfortable enough. And I understand if you're drinking, I'm sure if I had 2 or 3, I'd forget I even had a mask with me.
Yeah, you just keep going because that's what happens.
But I didn't run into anybody being an idiot. So it was comfortable. So, I mean, it was all right that way. And just because everybody's been on back and forth, so they're biting their tongue if they have something to say, because they've been on the other side like a month ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and just because Tim Houston wants to open tourism doesn't mean we should not protect ourselves. It's still recommended you wear a mask. So,
I want to be careful enough that we can keep doing stuff, because I'm really excited to get out there doing stuff, but I don't want to be homesick, and I don't want anyone else to be homesick. So
yeah, exactly.
I'd like to do it careful enough that we can continue, especially this summer. We have some crazy events.
Yeah.
It wasn't really in our notes here for news, but that Area 506 concert, the festival that they have in New Brunswick, I didn't put it in notes. We could talk about it in the future, but it's scheduled for the same weekend as the Naglasco Riverfront Jubilee and Charles Rock the Hub. So, like, we're going to be flooded with stuff that weekend. Anybody that's around, you don't have to travel to any of the shows. You can just stay in your hometown, which is cool, but let's be safe enough that you can still stay at home and go out too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, so in the interview, I was not there. We actually recorded the interview a week ago, and I was unable to even sit up for an hour, let alone talk for 3 minutes straight without having a coughing fit. So the interview was solo with Darcy, and if you're not sick of hearing his voice after that, here's just some more Darcy voice while he spits out some news.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that interview originally was something I was thinking of for a transition with our bonus episodes that I was doing with some of the heavier stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a really good fit. And I was seeing in the news about him having this cooperation with mental health and these activity books being distributed in limited numbers and the PDF being online. So, like, I was legitimately into that whole thing. And I had met him before when we were at Music Week. So he was on my list of people to circle back to. So that was cool. But other things that have been going on, I had mentioned I've been to the commune a couple times recently. Not the full night every time, but I caught a couple performances. I did miss when Keeper E was down here just not too long ago. She was playing in support of her new EP.
Okay.
And her opener was somebody that I had also interviewed previously, the Carol Brown, because she was putting Carol Brown and the same thing everyone has with like that taken. So she has the in front of it all the time.
And not Carol Brownette.
Right, exactly. Some people in the city may be familiar with her now. She had just played a show not too long ago at Gus's Pub, which is quite a popular spot up there for shows, live music. So a few people may know her name. And in very recent news, this is not official news as of the recording, but for the listeners, we have a little bit of news here from the Carol Brown. She's got an EP coming out in April, and she's doing a release show at the Commune on April 24th. And the tickets are on sale now. If you want more information, you can go to www.thecarolbrown.com. And that's Carol with a K.
Oh, perfect. I would have spelled it with a C. That would have been.
There you go. A little bit of late breaking news. I just found that out as we were hitting record. Another one we had mentioned before when we were talking about the Commune and Shoebox Studios, about some of the people we'd seen in the promo clips. And we were kind of daydreaming and forecasting ahead that it would be a good show for them to have Not Like Yesterday and the Brood playing together. And they have scheduled it for this coming weekend.
Oh, really?
Which will be in the past by the time people are listening to this. But other news that just came up today, I don't know the details behind it, and I suppose it's really irrelevant why, but they had to cancel the opener, so the Brood's not going to be able to play. I was a little disappointed by that, but the silver lining of it, they have replaced the opener with Voodoo Sometimes, and I've had this business card sitting on my coffee table for the last week or so.
Oh, really?
That's another band that I noticed the Music Week with some of their promo stuff. They had some posters that were cut out in a different pattern.
Okay.
There's only 2 or 3 people that did that. Pillow Fight was one of the other ones. But yeah, so there's somebody I noticed, and I had listened to some of their music online, and I really liked it. And I had some in the car. And my daughter was listening to a few different songs, and that one just kind of caught her ear. She went, wait, what's this song? She doesn't make me skip stuff, but she just doesn't say anything usually.
Okay.
But there's a few bands. Keeper E was one that she had pointed out before that she liked. And this is Ate and Jax is one. And Voodoo Sometimes. So I was pretty excited to see that they're in there, and I might actually be able to get down and catch the show. Hopefully. We'll wait and see how things go. I kind of go day by day with everything now.
Yeah.
What other news did I have there? The playlist itself this week, that's what I want to talk about. So rather than just grabbing new singles, which there is a lot of new music out there, but I want to spend a little bit more time talking about some of those people rather than just blowing through this one. Mm-hmm. So for this week's compilation, I actually went through this book that Matt had done, the activity book. And it is a theme of all different bands from the subcultures of like punk and metal and alternative rock.
Okay.
But all East Coast stuff. Primarily Halifax, but it's stuff he knows. There's some PEI stuff there and everything. Yeah. And it gave me a good excuse to include some bands that I've been digging lately, Botfly and Null. Mm-hmm. Null, I believe I told you about the other day. They have a short film, Devour. Yeah. It's like an EP with a little movie to go along with it. And they're doing their release for that as a show this weekend, I believe, as well. So I get those guys worked into the playlist, but the rest of it is they were included in here, and the other bands are all included in this activity book. But when I started putting it together, I'm not quite done yet because there's a lot of different content. Some of the bands are known to me, some of them not so much. There's a little bit of a range for when they were released. It goes back a couple of years for some of them. Okay. So right now I'm mainly stuck in YouTube because I'm fascinated by all the videos to accompany them. And I believe the Spotify playlist is probably going to be a little bit different because a lot of these bands are indie and don't necessarily have the same content in both platforms.
Yeah.
But when I was telling you that as I was going along with these playlists, that everyone seems to be my new favorite playlist every week now.
Yeah, exactly.
But this one, where it had the little bit of a range, I said like how I always kind of like scenes in one of the previous episodes. And I was trying to think of like what it was reminding me of, and I couldn't quite place it. And I was sitting here last night and I had it playing through the apartment while I was tidying up. And it reminded me of the Kill Rock Stars compilations. Would have been kind of parallel to early Seattle stuff. It was Washington area. So like there's a lot of the same bands, a lot of the same artists.
Yeah.
But it was the same kind of idea. It was a big alternative pop, rock, punk, everything kind of mixed together. But you kind of get that vibe that they're all somehow friends. It's like a community of artists.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm really digging it, and I hope that everyone listening goes out and gives a chance to listen to those playlists. And if you don't, I'm really enjoying them myself anyway. So
it gives us still going to listen to if you're not listening to it. So whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so that's the news for the week and what's kind of going on. We trimmed it down a bit because of Darcy's doing a one-man show the last couple of weeks, and I've been trying to keep my head above water. So, as well in the news, though, something I wanted to mention, with all this music, if you're out there thinking about writing music and you're not doing it, just get it done. Taylor Hawkins dying last week really got me thinking about that, and I was like, what are we waiting for? Just, if you got stuff in your head, get it out there. If no one listens, who cares? You did it. It's out there. Enjoy it. But, moving on with some happier stuff, here's the interview's coming up after this song with Darcy. The outro is going to be a little different because we wrapped it up and there we go. It'll end with the song. So find us online, LinkTree. Find us on Instagram. The LinkTree link is in the Instagram. Join our conversation on Discord. That link is in the LinkTree. So go to Instagram, click on the LinkTree, go on the LinkTree, click on the Discord, sign in Discord. We're trying to create a community there. And
actually, say it just for a quick second. For as far as interactivity with us, if anyone is listening on a regular basis and we drop something in the format, because we are tweaking it as we go along, if there's anything you like that we're not doing anymore and you want us to bring it back, or something you think we should do different or add, any ideas, feel free to write us.
And if you'd like
we'll
to see us,
tell you through an episode that we don't want information if people are telling us too much. But
something we held off from doing was create a Facebook group. Kind of a personal thing. I was like trying to move away from Facebook for our reliability, to rely on Facebook. But that might be a thing in the future too. If people think they want a Facebook group, let us know, and we'll consider that as well.
Absolutely. And you and I are keeping an eye on some of the new formats, like YouTube is really getting into the podcast world, and it looks like TikTok as well.
If YouTube does, TikTok is guaranteed.
Yeah, so those are going to be two new podcast platforms in the future, and Spotify now has video. So if you're listening to our podcast on Spotify, you will start to notice some video content to go along with the audio while you're listening in the app.
Yeah, so check all those out. For now, though, here's a Matt Steele Cupcake. And I'll talk to you in a couple weeks, and you'll hear Darcy here in about a few minutes. Goodbye.
I've been waiting all my life to have a cupcake. Such a treat has never made it to my plate. I would read about them in the local paper, but they'd always dissipate to the mouths of popular demand. And a caramel chocolate delight seems so bland in the face of what I can't have, oh yeah. It's driving me mad. I've been waiting all my life to have a cupcake. I've been waiting all my life to have a cupcake. Oh, they're always running out before I get to the bakery, wondering if I'll ever get to taste something savory. I've been waiting all my life. I've been waiting all my life to shack on every corner, but they're on back order, and they don't know when they'll have them in again. And the caramel chocolate delight seems so bland in the face of what I can't have, oh yeah. It's driving me mad. I've been waiting all my life to have a cupcake. I've been waiting all my life to have a cupcake. Oh, they're always running out before I get to the bakery, wondering if I'll ever get to taste something savory. I've been waiting all my life. Well, I tried to make do with creme brulee, candy bars and brittles left me hurting for days. You can go to the dentist, tell him, take all my teeth, I need that little bit of frosting and the sweet underneath. I've been waiting all my life to have a cupcake. I've been waiting all my life, and they're always running out before I get to the bakery, wondering if I'll ever get to taste something savory. Waiting all my life to have a cupcake. Waiting all my life to have a cupcake. Oh, they're always running out before I get to the bakery, wondering if I'll ever get to taste something savory. I've been waiting all my life. I've been waiting all my life. Still waiting. I've been waiting all my life.
And welcome back. We have Matt Steele here with us today. Hello, Matt.
How's it going?
So the reason I wanted you to come on too, I'll give a little bit of a backstory, and you're not necessarily going to remember, but back in November when I was at Music Week, I was there with a different podcast, and you had actually popped your head in. Yeah, the Jam Sessions one, yeah?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you had popped your head in for a minute, and I did try to make it to your show that night. De Guzman was playing before you. Is it?
It's
Giselle?
Giselle de Guzman.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there for hers, but I had a timeline getting back to Glasgow, and I left before you ended up showing up. So I did miss you.
Classic NSMW. I mean, we played our showcase, and then I was working the next morning.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
At 7 a.m. at the hospital. So like we basically like we packed up, and then Devin and I, bass player for the Corvette Sunset, we went to a big turnip snow case or something just to say hi to the guys, and then we hightailed it back to Halifax, Dartmouth.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I was driving back and forth from Glasgow. I mean, it's a central location, but everybody was ripping around everywhere, so it's hard to make all the connections.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things I did after that weekend, I had made a little list of bands that I wanted to get back to, and you're on that, and you're not that far down.
Excellent.
What bumped you up? Like seriously, you were like number 4 or 5 on my list.
Hey man, I'm okay as long as we get there. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
I had your guys' card on the top of my dresser for a long time, but I was just like, the next time I have something to release, I'm going to message you guys, and we're going to put it all together, you know, so here we are. Yeah.
So yeah, my brother ended up doing this one after that, and it's a little bit different format, and we throw a few other things in, but, what really stuck out to me, I did a couple bonus episodes outside from our regular ones where I was looking for that kind of subculture of the heavier music.
Mm-hmm.
And, I kind of just toured around online and found a few people to talk to and did a couple interviews. But I was wanting also to go back through my list and find a couple bands that I had that were more in the country genre, because we were not doing this genre specific, but we never touched on any country stuff yet. Like we're like on month 3 or 4. So I actually had you in that list because that's the way you were grouped in the billings that I was seeing.
Yeah, fun. Yeah, well, you know, because we did. Thomas Stager was on the same like stage as us, and yeah, it was. I think we kind of ended up, you know, sometimes at NSMW they're just trying to fit people in somewhere, and that's the stage we ended up at. And great stage, great crowd. But yeah, like definitely, if you were just looking at a list of people who were playing that ballroom that night, it was all mostly country-ish stuff.
Yeah, and I know they were really trying to get away from that, but I subconsciously was grouping that all together. Oh, yeah. So you have like your newer stuff is like an alt folk kind of light rock stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody that I was just talking to about you actually suggested maybe some Ryan Adams influence there.
Yeah, you know, Ryan Adams has I kind of was actually thinking about him today, in that there was a point in my life around like 2012 where finding out about Ryan Adams and Elvis Costello absolutely 1000% changed the trajectory of my songwriting, my approach to music, my sound. I think up until that point, I was just sort of floundering around, kind of just writing songs, like, you know, writing rock song, writing this song, writing that song. And like those two artists really gave me like a twin northern, two Tatooine suns to kind of chase after. So it's been very disappointing to find out how much of an asshole Ryan Adams is, sex pest, potential, you know, I don't really remember whatever happened with the 16-year-old girl thing, but like thinking about him gives me a really bad taste in my mouth, as we kind of have these conversations about, the people we adore creatively and in the pesky and pesty and otherwise awful things that some of them do. But, you know, I'm also not going to deny that I listened to the shit out of Ryan Adams at one point in my life. And even though I haven't really touched him since the New York Times article came out, you know, that style is going to stick with me. And I've certainly looked for that sound in other people, like really love like Sharon Van Etten and Big Thief and Kurt Weill and even like War on Drugs. Everybody who's kind of doing like things poking around the same kind of sonic territory as Ryan Adams, for sure.
And you're originally from? You're from the States?
Kentucky. Yeah, I'm from Kentucky. So my mom is from PEI, but I was born and raised in Kentucky. And then after I graduated university the first time around, I moved up to PEI to be in a band, and it was awesome to be close to all my family. And then my mom got sick and died, and then I moved to Halifax and have been in this part of the world ever since.
Oh, okay. So that you're rooted here now, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've got family in town, and try to. I think having grown up away from all my family, it definitely feels nicer to be a little bit closer to them. And then for my wife, she grew up mostly in Truro, and then kind of spent her college and post-college years bopping around a whole bunch of different places and traveling the world, and kind of came to a point where she was like, I gotta be near my people and my family and my friends. And she moved back here to kind of put down roots, and then we started dating. And then I was like, well, you know, I've got family and I really appreciate that, and she likes her family, and you know, I feel like I've got a fun music thing happening here and lots of, you know, creative people to bounce off of, and so it works out pretty well.
That's awesome. So that initial band here, was that you mentioned just before we started this conversation, maybe some earlier punk stuff?
Yeah, well, that was in between. So I had originally been in a band in PEI with my cousins, and we were called Bad Mountie, which way predated all the cop police stuff conversations that we're having in the past year or two. But yeah, that was a fun time, but we all just kind of, I think I kind of creatively differed from them, and I was, like I said, I was discovering Elvis Costello and Ryan Adams, and I think they were trying to go in a more like jammy kind of way,
Sure.
which is
Yeah.
them, but I'm not a jam, like I love the Grateful Dead, but I'm not a jam rock guy per
Yeah.
se.
Yeah. You can appreciate and actually really like something without preferring to play it.
Totally. So, I moved to Halifax and I had a band called Split Lips with Ben Schulman, who was briefly the drummer for Bury, and Sean McInnes, who is the bass player for Botfly, the hardcore band, which I cannot recommend enough if you like heavy music. And,
I was checking them out. They're on my list.
Yes.
To circle around to at some point.
Awesome guys. So, we had Split Lips, and that was kind of a very like 70s punk Police / like Tame Impala / like Queens of the Stone Age kind of vibe.
Okay.
But, the whole time we were doing that, I was kind of slowly working on a solo record, and then we had kind of really, without really stopping and taking stock and doing some of the music business stuff that Music Nova Scotia tries to encourage people to do, like I think we kind of just like hit a point where it was like, I think we had kind of done, we weren't done creatively, but I think we had kind of done everything we could do to try to get attention, and at the end of it, it was kind of like, well, we're still kind of just playing Gotta Jam and Rainbow Room.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to name examples, but I can think of half a dozen other bands like that, especially in the last couple decades where we went digital. That I said to someone the other day, the 15 minutes of fame's available to everyone, but you have to constantly do it just to stay relevant. And then some of it's just luck.
Yeah, and so I mean, like after Split Lips broke up, like even until like 2 years ago, like there were people who would like ask me once or twice a year, like, "Hey, I know that you guys aren't really a band, but could you get back together to play my house party because it was always a good time?" Or like, but yeah, like I think we all just kind of, I was coming towards the middle end of university again, and the other guys were kind of moving on to different things. Botfly was kind of picking up, and then my solo record was done, and then I formed the Corvette Sunset to tour that, and then that became a new band. And like I mentioned before we started, I have ADHD, so it's just kind of like kept going, and now going back to the Ryan Adams, Tom Petty acoustic stuff, like we've actually just, by the time this airs, this will all be public knowledge, but like the Corvette Sunset is split into its own band that I happen to be the lead singer of, and then Matt Steele is its own thing, which I am the lead singer and songwriter and can go and play my acoustic guitar and not worry about scheduling 3 other people behind it.
That actually kind of makes sense from when I was going over your catalog and I was trying to differentiate it. We briefly talked about that too, about having different, where with social media being so important behind everything, you really are saying not just this is me, it's that this is me as this is me as this.
Yeah. Well, like it especially, I find it's always, people have conceptions of who I am that may or may not be more accurate than how my conception of myself, but I feel like I've always really enjoyed being in a band. But then also because it's so easy to pick up a acoustic guitar and go do a songwriter circle, being in a band sometimes that has your name on it also feels kind of like you're cheating on the band when you go and do your own thing. And then I kind of realized last year when I was releasing Falling Asleep at the Metal Show, I was, finally doing something as a solo recording project that had nothing to do with the band, but I was using the Matt Steele and the Corvette Sunset page to promote it. And then I also felt like I couldn't totally be my authentic self because I didn't want to speak for the other people who were creatively involved in the band. And because our sounds are kind of changing a little bit, the new Corvette Sunset stuff is really a little bit more Strokesy, Weezery, and punky maybe. And then the new Matt Steele material is getting back to that kind of Ryan Adams-y roots rock stuff. So it kind of felt like, we were putting too much on one social media page.
Sure. And that makes sense as a fan. If it happened a lot. And I mean, one example for anyone that follows this podcast, they know we talk about Andre Pettipa all the time and he just lives here in town.
Yeah.
So that's an example that if I go to a show and I know it's Andre Pettipa and the Giants, I know what type of show I'm getting. But if I just see Andre Pettipa listed, it's probably the same songs, but it's a completely different show.
Yeah.
So it would be the same thing if I'm going to see Matt Steele versus Matt Steele in the Corvette Sunset. I'm expecting it's probably a more stripped down acoustic style when it's solo.
Yeah, totally. But I just found it was like, it kind of got to the point where it's like, even when shows started happening again, and I was putting, like, this spring is worth, putting finishing touches on new Corvette Sunset stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like listening to these like very strokesy, like punk rock songs that I'm like probably not going to play solo, and that were kind of collaboratively arranged with the band. And I'm going like, well, this new material, I don't know if I really want to do it solo acoustic.
Sure.
And here I am like plastering just my face all over the band's social media account. Feels just like a bit, it just, even like I finally like was like, this is too much. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so we split it up, and there should like be a breakup video. I just got the draft for today that we're going to post in a couple of days. It's just like where they like fire me from the band, and I look very disappointed. But then of course, like the next post is going to be all four of us in a picture smiling or something,
That's fun.
But yeah, it's just like, just to allow me to be a little more nimble, a little more authentic in my solo persona. And to maybe give a chance for the band to kind of have a bit more of a unique identity as we go forward. I think
Sure.
we want to, I want that. I want a little bit more of a band identity, and to not be just the band leader leading bands everywhere I go kind of person.
So what's next? Is it would be solo releases, or the band, or parallel they'll be coming out?
The band has a solo release coming up in April. We have a new song called The Rules, and it's very like strokesy and Weezery. So that'll be out very soon. And then in June, we're putting out some more material. We've got a show at the Seahorse lined up on June 2nd. So it's the next couple months, I think, aside from my own solo appearances all over the place, because that's kind of the easy thing to do right now, is going to be a bunch of Corvette Sunset stuff. And then in July, I'm looking at doing a solo release with a song I did with Wants, Adam Warren. Yeah, he like mixed it and did some of the background instruments and helped kind of shepherd the thing to fruition. So I'm really excited about that, and I recorded it like in the middle of last year, but it just, I didn't really know what to do with it. It was just one song. I feel like this current singles market just is kind of confusing to me, to spend so much money to market a single that you can't really sell because nobody's buying it on iTunes.
Yeah.
But that's what people want. So I kind of just like held on to it till I knew what I really wanted to do with it. And now I'm starting to think about recording a solo record. So I was like, well, I should get this out to get like wet the whistle while I, keep working on some more material. Just gonna try to keep recording and re-releasing.
So another thing that did kind of bubble you up to the top of my list here is that when I was looking, besides the fact that by coincidence I was looking at some country artists and you were on my short list in that pile.
Yeah.
Your activity book that just came out.
Yes.
I want to talk about that a little bit. And actually, I printed off some copies of the PDF last night and went through it with my girlfriend. We actually sat down for probably 2 hours and just sat and discussed some of the questions and went through the activities. It was kind of fun.
Heck yeah. That's what it's for. That was a project that was originally going to be a merch book that I was going to release with Falling Asleep at the Metal Show.
Okay.
And then I was trying to think about how I was going to get it done and how I was going to finance it, like what the financials of it were. It was going to end up being like I was going to have to pay somebody to do the graphic design in the book. And if I wanted any artwork, I was probably going to have to pay an artist and any number of other things that would just jack up the cost. And then, if I print so many, and what happens if I don't sell them all? Now I'm just in the hole waiting on a book. And then I was talking to a few people and they're like, well, why don't you just like get a grant for it? And I'm like, well, yeah, I could get a grant. And they're like, yeah, like Mental Health Foundation's, giving out grants for unique mental health things. And I was like, well, I actually think that something like this would be better to just be in the hands of people than me to try to make a buck off of it.
Yeah.
Not a very good capitalist. So I got some grants and basically, which paid for everything, and made 500 copies of the book and a bunch of like copies I printed at Staples as well that aren't as nice, but are still full of all the activities, and just trying to give them out to people, trying to spread the word, trying to let people know that if you go to somewhere and they don't have it, or if you can't print it at home because you don't have a printer, like, hit me up and I'll try to figure out how to get you a copy if you're in the HRM, where I can't drive up to New Glasgow, unfortunately. But
yeah, well, we will put a link to your site in the show notes too, because like I said, I just went to your site and grabbed the PDF and just printed a copy for myself to go through, and it
sweet. Yeah,
only takes a couple seconds.
Yeah. I just sort of thought, as a recreation therapist, which is, I'm working mental health in my day job. I just thought about all the different ways that we try to reach people who are trying to work on their mental health and give them strategies, especially in the pandemic when everybody was stuck inside. And I thought that metalheads, punk rockers, like, that's a group of people that are sometimes hard to reach.
Sure.
But have a history of community care and taking care of each other. So, and then because of falling asleep at the metal show, I was already kind of on a little bit of like a metal kick. And even though the song is very singer-songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how I put the book together. I was just like, there's people out there who this might be a way. You did the activities. It's like crosswords and coloring and word search and some kind of like typical self-care activities. But the in is that it's all tailored towards people who want to, explore the metal side of things. It's not a word search where you're trying to find the word like bunny rabbit. It's like the word search where you're trying to find a Kuzma or botfly or Liker motorcycle. Like, those are the clues you have to find,
And so I do have a follow-up for that part specifically too. When we were going through it last night, her question was, when you put this together, are these maybe not so much like the word finds, but like the crosswords and stuff where you had to have a little bit of knowledge of these bands and the scene a little bit? I know that from when I did a little bit of research on you there, you used to do sound at some shows when you were in PEI, and I've watched your video that the one that we've mentioned a couple of times here, that falling asleep at the metal show.
Yeah.
And I see it's the seahorse, and there's a whole bunch of people. Like, you got the whole thing set up. You're obviously part of the scene as a fan.
Yeah.
And she was wondering if you would have been able to do this on your own as just a fan, or if you would have had to look up some of that stuff.
I tried to make the crossword puzzle more mainstream.
Yeah.
So those are all like bands that you hear on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that for me, I think because I made the crossword, like, I think I already knew all the answers. Like, I just picked stuff.
I was assuming that.
I just like picked stuff that I knew but yeah, when it came time to make the word searches for local bands, I definitely had a list of bands that I wanted to include from around the Maritimes, but I also asked around to see if there were anybody who had any recommendations of stuff that I missed, because Terry and her partner Jesse, who's the drummer in the Corvette Sunset, they are even more metal fans than I am. And then of course we did the vibe check to make sure that we didn't put any bands in that were like Sex Pests or things like that. We didn't want to like have somebody who had a bad experience like trying to do this mental health workbook and then having like coming across the band.
Yeah.
So, we tried to do a little bit of diligence with that. But yeah, it was just the word search, like, because you're just trying to find words, right? So make the words very cool, make the words, a lot of the stuff in this book is it's like a secondary activity, you local band word search. Okay, so you found all the words, but like, what about these bands? Like, are you interested? Like, you're a metal, because you picked this book up, presumably you might be a metal or a punk fan. So like, I've just given you a huge rabbit hole of stuff to do instead of just sitting around like being sad or whatever. Like, you're probably still sad, but now you're like looking up bands to connect with and like maybe help you feel what you feel. And
I love it. Like the whole theme, and like I'm a sucker for gimmicks in the first place.
Yeah.
Like I'm not blind to it. I'm fully aware, but you nailed a lot of things on my checklist of things that make me go, what's that? So I was in there looking at it like immediately, and then I was like, oh, I should really write him now.
Yeah.
So I was glad to hear back from you right away.
Yeah.
We are kind of running out of time for this call, but I would like to invite you to reach back out to us when you have some new material coming out and playing some shows.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say, you said this is probably going to air in a couple of weeks, a couple of weeks. So we'll be getting really close to the Rules release with the Corvette Sunset. So that's Instagram at the Corvette Sunset. And if you keep your eyes peeled, even on our, various streaming pages, or if you go to mattsteelemusic.bandcamp.com, like new releases will be there. Click follow, go to mattsteelemusic.com, sign up for the email. Basically my catch-all email list is anytime there's a new Corvette Sunset or Matt Steele or Steel Fox thing, like I'll let people know. But yeah, I want to be friends with folks. Love expanding the circle and bringing people into it. So just look me up.
Yeah, well, we'll be keeping an eye out, but be sure to reach out for us, and we'll make sure to plug it. And you're welcome to come back on again in the future, and maybe we'll get to catch you at a live show, or we'll run into you at an event here in the future. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I'll send you a list of my upcoming dates if you're putting that in the podcast at the end or whatever.
Perfect.
So that people across Nova Scotia know where I'm going.
Awesome. And we're just going to play out this episode with your Falling Asleep at the Metal Show.
Sweet.
And for anyone that's watching this on YouTube, you should check out the video for it as well. There's a lot of work went into that.
Yeah, it was a shout out to all the people who helped make that possible. It was a big team, and extremely grateful that everybody was like, yes, this is a great idea and we're going to do it. So,
no, it looked like a lot of fun. It's definitely, the effort is shown right there on the screen. So check that out. And for anyone listening to the audio, we're going to go right into the song here now. And Matt, thank you for your time. And hopefully we talk again soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
If it's fast and loud, will your heart pump blood like you've never taken a breath? If it's fast or louder, will the head rush through you like an arrow into the pit? If blood and murder, death and fire are words to heal the soul, why do I feel like it's all been done before? Well, the stacks are pushing in, the headbanging boys are swinging their hair. I'm still in my seat, bed is on fire, but I just wanna leave. Going through the motions when you can't tap into the flow. Here I am, falling asleep at the metal show. If the singer screams, will you move your body and shake your vocal cords? If he hands you the mic, will you roar those lyrics until you can't anymore? If you know the words and you know the rhythms and the notes that make you feel, why can't I get up and march for the real deal? banging boys are swinging their hair. I'm still in my seat. The bellows on fire, but I just wanna leave. Going through the motions when you get tapped in the floor. Here I am, falling asleep. Here I am, falling asleep. Here I am, falling asleep at the metal show.